catching feelings, baby.
What's up, beautiful people? It's Hershey Sunday, and I'm back with the scoop after dark. How are you? No, really. How are you? I hope that wherever you are tonight, this moment finds you well. And whether you're coming home from a long shift, leaving the grocery store, getting ready for your 9 to 5 or your 5 to 9, after the 9 to 5 to try to build something for yourself, just know that you are welcomed here. You are safe here, and I'm happy to have you. As you can see, this is giving audio for this episode for a few reasons. One, I am not at my 100% best, having a little bit of under the weather um, flux, okay, as you can hear in my voice. So excuse the raspiness tonight. Also, baby, this is a hair day, okay? I have to wash my hair, and honey, it's giving kitchen beautician, all right? And not in the way that you like. So y'all gonna get a smooth audio and, use your imagination, baby. Barney said, use your imagination. So that's what we're gonna do for tonight's episode. And before we get started all the way, I just want to let you know that if you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe to The Scoop with Hershey Sunday After Dark, wherever you listen to your podcast. We're also on YouTube, so that is also an outlet you could support, and your support means the world to me. So thank you in advance. So let me go ahead and spit out a quick fact on this beautiful month of women's history. Let's talk about Dr. Margaret Burroughs. Now, she doesn't get talked about enough, but baby, she is the reason Chicago has one of the most important Black museums in the country. 1961, Dr. Burroughs founded the DuSable Museum of African American History. And get this, it started in her living room. Not a building, not a grant-funded institution. A Black woman in Chicago said, "We deserve to see ourselves in history," and opened her home to the community. And mind you, this was during a time when Black history wasn't being taught in schools. Museums were ignoring Black contributions, and Chicago was heavily segregated. And child, quiet as it's kept, it still is segregated, okay? But that's another conversation for another episode. She was like, cool, baby, we're going to build our own. Okay. That little living room museum grew into the DuSable Museum in Washington Park, now one of the oldest independent Black museums in the U.S. And on top of that, she was a poet, an educator, an artist, and she pushed for Black history to be taught in Chicago public schools. So shout out and a big thank you to the beautiful, talented Dr. Margaret Burroughs. And now that we've gotten our women's history dose of the evening, let's get into what brought me comfort. Okay, so we're going to be talking about what has been going on since I've last seen you all. Prior to this, I had a birthday. Okay, March 17th was my 37th birthday. Yes, I am a fish. Yes, I am a St. Patty's Day baby. And can I just be transparent for a moment? 37 for me is so jarring because I feel like a lot of things have changed, but some things haven't. On my actual birthday, I have to admit, I didn't know how to feel. Have you ever experienced that on your birthday? Now, some people celebrate their birthday, some don't for various reasons. We won't get into that. But I believe however you choose to acknowledge your day is worth acknowledging, right? So when your birthday comes around, like, how does that make you feel? Is it a sense of accomplishment, excitement, fear of turning older, a bit of regret, a bit of sadness? So that day I felt a plethora of emotions. Turning 37, I don't know. I don't know if I could say it's complex because I feel like a lot of things are the same. Like I don't feel any different from 36 to 37. I don't feel I look any different. Thank God. Okay. But it is an acknowledgement of like, wow, I am, you know, I'm not the young girl. Okay. And I kind of, there's a part of me that mourns that, if I'm being transparent. right? Like, I'm a woman, and we all, as best as we try to like rise above the critique of getting older, and for the most part, I don't care. I'm grateful for being older, getting older, getting the opportunity that so many people have not had. There's a small part of me that feels like, wow, my younger years are getting further and further behind me. There's so many things that I have not yet accomplished. There's so many things I have not yet experienced. Will I be able to experience them? We don't know. Some things yes, some things no. So it was that morning, I literally, and I had gotten well wishes from everyone, right? Like, I got text messages, phone calls, people who love me dearly reached out and said things that people writing on my wall on Facebook. If y'all still use Facebook for writing on walls and such, I am an OG Facebook user. I think I've had a Facebook since '05, honey. Okay. But, over the course of the day, I said, you know what? I'm going to go get me a cup of coffee. I'm going to go, do a little shopping, little retail therapy. I ain't never heard a soul. Okay. I am a retail therapy girly. Um, and I took my time, I came home, I took an everything shower, and y'all know what an everything shower is, right? It is when, baby, you are scrubbing and shaving and picking and prodding and lifting and sculpting from the root to the tooth, honey. And I did just that. Felt great. Was able to take my time doing skincare, moisturizing my body, feeling myself, appreciating my body for aging gracefully, for aging period, right? But aging gracefully. And I started to feel better also too. I had an ashwagandha tab, 600 milligrams, baby, it did wonders, okay? A little bit of caffeine and some ashwagandha had your girl feeling a lot better. There's so many things I want to do, try, experience, and this is as young as I'll be. 37 is the youngest that I will be in this life, because guess what? It's only going to go up. Hope, pray to God that it only goes up from here. So, and it's still young, I'm embracing that. But I'm also, I feel like I'm maturing in ways that I didn't have in my 20s and even in my early 30s. Have you experienced that? Am I alone? Hello, hello, hello. Let me know. I would love to talk about that more. I don't want to dwell on and on, but that's what I was going through, honey, on my birthday. A smorgasbord of emotions, but ultimately it landed where it needed to. Speaking of which, and again, excuse my voice again, I'm kind of having a little nasal thing going on. Have you watched The Age of Attraction on Netflix? If you watch Love is Blind, you will enjoy Age of Attraction because, honey, age ain't nothing but a number, or is it? It's I feel like to a certain extent, age does matter when it comes to partnership. To an extent, I think within a reason, and I think it depends on your age. This show follows singles that go into this retreat. They end up, linking up, seeing who they're compatible with, going into this promise room, exchanging promise rings. And after they exchange, then they divulge their ages, which gets a little complicated. I don't want to ruin it or spoil it for everyone who haven't had a chance to watch it. But honey, it's on Netflix. I think they're on episode 7 or 8. So go ahead to roll on over there and give it a watch. It's good to watch, All right, Scoops, let's get into tonight's reflection. And I titled this Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, or Is It? Now, people love to say that phrase, right? Age ain't nothing but a number. Baby, we sing it a la Aaliyah, okay? Age ain't nothing but a number. Throwing down it. Now, honey, we also have to keep in mind that that was a whole different meaning for her and R. Kelly. Hello, okay? So we're gonna leave that where it's at. But age is just a number. But in other ways, it really isn't. Because every year we live adds something to us, right? Every age carries experiences. It carries lessons. It carries milestones, moments that shaped us. The number represents the distance between the moment you entered this world and where you stand today. And isn't that funny when you think back on that? You literally started off in the womb and then you come into this world and these different trips around the sun, you know, it increases your age, but also increases your experience in life. Think about when you were like 18 years old and what you thought life was at 18, how you thought you'd be living your life at 18, and then jump to 21. Maybe you had a little bit more experience. Maybe you were finishing up your education or still in it. Maybe you changed the vision of what you wanted to do educationally. Whereas maybe you didn't go into school, you went right to the workforce. You know, think about how that changed. Think about 25, okay? Because now you're in your mid 20s. You okay? You got a little more seasoning to you. You're still young, still very much grown. Okay. Um, Maybe you're well into your career. You are entering into that rat race of your career and you are working your way up, you know, getting experience. And then the big 29. I'm telling you, 29 was a big change for me. 29 was a life change. 29, I was divorced. I had moved back home from living in an area that I had lived in for 8 years. I built my career there, had a home there. And then I had to change everything up to move back to my hometown because of the divorce. It was a big life change, and I was 29. Big life change. But imagine how you felt during that time, okay? Now, for some of us that's a little bit older than 29, imagine how your 30s felt. What did you feel in your 30s? What did you think your 30s would feel like? I remember feeling like 30s were so like, oh my God, you really are grown. Like you're 30. Like 30 is a serious age. And I mean it is, you are grown. But honey, just keep living, okay? keep on living. Mm. Each of those ages that I named felt like a completely different version of me. I mean, I look back on some of the decisions I made, good, bad, and sometimes ugly. And I'm like, why did you do that? And then some of them I'm like, I'm so glad you did that. I'm so glad you took a chance. Sometimes youth brings a fearlessness that you have. I'm going to do it anyway. I just want to try it. I don't care if I fail. Sometimes getting older brings that same type of wisdom. I don't care if I fail, I'm doing it anyway. And I wish you would say something to me about it. Oh, different priorities, different life understandings, different understanding of yourself. And I think, and I'm just going to talk to the women for just a moment, because honey, this is Women's History Month. As women especially, I think we're often told that aging is something to fear. There's a small part of me that had a little bit of that, I won't say fear, but maybe hesitation, maybe uncertainty. But I think overall, I don't have that fear. I think I'm more grateful of knowing that I'm blessed enough to age. It means that I've lived. It means that I've loved, I've seen things, I've learned things, I've survived things that I thought was going to break me. I've been through a lot of different versions of myself. And sometimes, you have to take inventory, right? I think this is for everybody, not just women. Did this in the car probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. Because sometimes, and I'm a person that's guilty of this, I'm very hard on myself when it comes to the expectation of where I should be in life. And I'm working on that. I'm a work in progress. I feel like I should be in a certain level, and sometimes that's just not how things go. But one thing I did while I was driving in the car was that I was naming the accomplishments that I've made from 21 all the way up into my current age. I mean, the big things and the little things. And by the time I finished, I was in tears because I think it was a shock to myself that I got through a lot of things that, oh, it's making me teary now, that I really did think was going to break me. That did break me, if I'm being honest. That did leave me broken in some ways, but with the help of my family, my friends, and I'll even, baby, shout out to myself, um, was able to piece myself back together and put myself back together again. Oh, surviving. Sometimes that, if you can't count any other blessing, surviving is one of the biggest ones. And I think that that's something to honor. I really do think that age may be a number, but it's also a marker of growth. It's an accomplishment. It's a timestamp that you've been on this earth, and it's something to be grateful for. And in conjunction to that, in the next portion of the What Became Clear to Me section of the show, one thing that has become very clear to me as I've gotten older is that time is precious. And I've become much more intentional about how I spend my time, about who I spend it with, what I give my energy to, what I allow. Time is the one thing we never get back. So I'm learning to simplify. I'm learning to slow down, to be more thoughtful about the way I move through life. And not in a fearful way either, because I don't want to live life in fear. I think you gotta, be reasonable. And I'm not saying like a healthy fear is bad, because you gotta have some common sense. I think that that's more so common sense, but in a grateful way. I'm not so much worried about how people feel about my own personal life choices and decisions that only affect myself. And I'm not really here to make other people that much more comfortable. Within reason, right? Obviously, I'm not trying to be a jerk. A lot of times we go along with things out of fear of either being judged or fear of disappointing people or going against status quo. And I'm not interested in, pacifying a person in that sense. I could be reasonable, but I also want to be fair towards myself. And I want to appreciate that and honor that. I want to have space set for myself to love on myself before I'm pouring out to other people, whether it's romantically, whether it's platonically, whether it's involving family. I really do want to make sure that I get the first fruits of that love, consideration, time. Taking time to care about yourself, take care of yourself, your body, improving on a lot of things, incorporating healthy habits and routines. But I'm also in the business of not picking myself apart, being so negative towards myself or treating myself so poorly, because, there was a time where I would really pick myself apart. I was my own worst critic, and I could hype someone else up. I'm the best hype woman. I will give myself that. I can hype someone else up, but when it comes to myself, I play it small. I play it small, and I'm like, well, maybe and hopefully, and I'm gonna try. No, I'm gonna talk just as big as I would for anyone else about myself, because I deserve it, and I've earned that. So for you, I want you to do the same thing. Give yourself time. Appreciate the time that you have. Pour some time back into yourself, because we don't get it back. So I hope that you, whoever's listening, if that touched you, baby, let it touch you, okay? All right, Scoops, we are tootsie rolling on over to Ask Hershey. And the question of today is, at what age did you finally feel like you understood the direction of your life? Well, if I'm being honest, I feel like that it came in stages, right? Let me be transparent, but not, be super negative or dwell on the negative. There was a point in my life when I was in my 20s, I would say probably 27, that I was extremely depressed. I was not happy in my marriage. I was not happy in, the area I was living. I was away from my family and my real friends, people who I've known for years, grown up with. And I was just sad. And I remember vividly sitting on my bed, just thinking like, this can't be my life. This just really cannot be my life. And I kept saying that. I kept saying, I want to make a big noise. I wanted to scream. Like, I felt like I was being contained in a way that was so unhealthy. I felt like I was having to dim my light. I felt like I was having to conform in ways that just did not fit who I was as a person. And I was changing. I was getting older, obviously. What I wanted at 19, 21, 25 even was changing. And I was changing as a woman, as a person. So I would say that was my first inkling. And then I think the turnaround for that probably was 35. I think 35 was like, okay, certain things ain't working for me, and I'm gonna have to cut it out. Certain things I'm gonna have to redo. Certain things I'm just gonna have to back away from. Things, people, practices, you know, I'm gonna have to give myself the freedom to just be still. I remember my clinic mom When I used to work in Missouri. I won't say exactly where, but when I used to work in Missouri, Mama Donnie, shout out to you, Mama Donnie, she would always say, be still. Sometimes you just got to be still, be still. And the older I get, the more I understood her words, because sometimes you have to just stand still and see what's going on around you and take note and inventory of what's working, what's not working, what you're trying to reframe, what you're trying to redo, what you're trying to start over, what you're trying to cut completely out. You got to be still for that. If you're constantly on the move and you're constantly distracting yourself, you're not able to see what your life really is and what you want it to be and what the possibilities are. So I hope that answered your question. And now, Scoops, I have a question for you. At what age did you begin to understand the deeper purpose of your life? Not just your job, not just your responsibilities, but your purpose. I want you to think about that. And if you care to share it, I am willing and ready to listen. And if you have a question that you want me to answer anonymously, don't forget that you can hit me up at thescoophs@gmail.com with the hashtag AskHershey. All right, beautiful people, it's about that time. One, the show is winding down, and two, so is my voice, as you can hear it. So I'm going to try to push through this bedtime story. Okay, so if you can, get you something easy to sip on, either warm or cool. Get snuggled up, get relaxed, and buckle up, buttercup. It's time for a bedtime story. You ever sit still long enough and realize just how much life you've lived? Not just years, not just birthdays, but moments. The kind that don't feel heavy when you're in them, but later they settle into your chest like, dang, that really happened. There was a time, not even that long ago for real, when you had your finger hovering over the record button on the radio, waiting for your song to come on WGCI. And as soon as you heard the first note, you pressed it too fast, missed the first few seconds, and still played that tape back like it was perfect, rewinding it with the pencil when it got stuck, labeling it like it was your own little album. That was your music, and that was your moment. You calling into WGCI on your birthday. Who's this on that birthday line? And you smiling like a kid hearing your name on the radio, like the whole city was celebrating you. And for a moment, Chicago felt small, felt like it was all yours. And then time did what time always does. It kept going. Now you burning CDs, carefully picking which song makes the cut. Track 1 got a hit. Track 7 got to be that one you play when you riding at night. Writing on the front of the CD with a Sharpie like Late Night Vibes Volume 2. And if somebody got your CD, oh yeah, that meant something. That meant they knew a piece of you. You remember them skating rink nights too? Markham, low lights, loud music, people gliding past you like poetry in motion, juking if you were at a particular age. Some folks were so smooth with it. Some folks were still just learning. Some folks just were there to be seen. And you were somewhere in between, laughing, sweating, living, not thinking about time, just being in it. You remember stepping outside into summer air, the Bud Billiken parade rolling through, families out, kids laughing, music echoing off of buildings, that kind of joy that don't ask for permission. It just shows up. And then time kept going. Now you on LimeWire, taking risks, downloading songs you hoped were what they said they were. Sometimes you got the song, sometimes you got something you definitely didn't ask for, but you figured it out. You always did. Then came MP3 players, then iPods, thousands of songs in your pocket, and you thought, ain't no way it gets better than this. And now, everything lives inside your phone. Every memory, every moment, every song, just to tap away. No rewinding, no waiting, just instant. And somehow that makes you pause, because it wasn't just about the music. It was about the waiting, the anticipation, the effort, the feeling of catching something at just the right time. And time didn't just change music, it changed everything. Hairstyles that once defined an era are gone. Clubs that held whole chapters of your life closed. Restaurants that raised generations, now just memories and remember when conversations. Even people, some still here, some not. Some who saw what you saw, some who didn't make it this far. And that's when it hits you. Real quiet, real gentle, but real. You're still here. Out of everything that changed, everything that ended, everything that came and went, you stayed. You stayed to see cassette tapes become playlists. You stayed to see neighborhoods evolve. You stayed to see the world shift, stretch, break, and rebuild. You stayed throughout heartbreak. You stayed throughout joy, throughout confusion, throughout clarity. You stayed. And there's something sacred about that. Because the alternative is becoming a story somebody else tells. And I remember them. And they used to be a memory that lives in someone else's mouth, an ancestor. But you're not just a memory. You're a witness, an observer of time, a living archive of everything you've seen, touched, felt, and survived. And yeah, time moves fast, faster than we'd like sometimes. But it also gives. It gives perspective. It gives depth. It gives meaning to things we didn't understand back then. So when you think about your age, don't just think about the number. Think about the eras you lived through, the versions of you that existed, the songs that carried you, the places that held you, the moments that shaped you. Because aging, it ain't just about getting older. It's about becoming someone who can sit back and say, I was there for that. And tonight, as you lay down, I just want you to hold that gently. Not with fear, not with regret, but with gratitude. Because you didn't just pass through time. Time passed through you, and you're still here to tell it. If any part of that story touched you, made you feel a sense of nostalgia, comfort, a bit of sadness, anything that you felt at the moment, I want you to take the time, really take the time to love on yourself and appreciate what's around you, whether it's the people, the places, or the things, because time literally waits for no one. Well, Scoops, that's the end of our show. I want to thank you, one, for bearing with me in my in my failing voice, and also just sticking with me through an episode that kind of is a little more tender for obvious reasons, right? If you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe to The Scoop with Hershey Sunday After Dark. I really appreciate your support. And if you have any questions that you want me to answer, please send it to thescoophs@gmail.com with the hashtag AskHershey. And as always, wherever you are tonight, be gentle with your heart. And I'll talk to you soon after dark.